We've been in this series called Rebuild. Today is week number 4. We've been taking a fairly in-depth look at the book of Nehemiah. We've looked at chapters 1 and 2 primarily. Today we're just going to skim over chapter 3. I'm not going to read much, just going to talk about it. And then we're going to spend most of our time in chapter 4 of Nehemiah. I'm not going to do a specific review today. There's just too much to cover. Instead, again, I encourage you to go just YouTube Everyday Church Belleview, catch up from the last 3 weeks. I guess if there were going to be a subtitle today, it would be, what do we do when we face opposition? Or maybe opposition is your opportunity. Either way, we're going to talk about opposition. As Christ followers, we aren't exempt from opposition. Anybody that tells you that just because you're a Christian or that you won't face opposition or difficult times is mistaken at best. Because opposition isn't fun, most of us try to avoid it at all costs. But I love what Bishop T.D. Jakes says, and this was a quote from him: opposition is your opportunity. Imagine for a moment that there are 2 railroad tracks running parallel. There's a track on your right, a track on your left, and there are trains on each track. Both are going in the same direction, and you are standing right in between them. One of the trains is opposition. The other train is opportunity. And it seems like these 2 things are contrasting. Like they should be going opposite directions. Opposition should go that way. Opportunity should go the other way. But opposition and opportunity actually run together. It's just a matter of perspective. The greater the opposition, the greater the opportunity. That's why we say things like, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. I mean, how many of you love a good hero story? Right? We love stories where an unsuspecting hero jumps into action and saves the day. And how that person is celebrated is often determined by the amount of danger he or she faced. Right? So in other words, the greater the opposition, the greater the opportunity. Where are my sports fans at? We got to think about your greatest rivalry in sports. What makes a good rivalry? Yankees. Okay, what makes a rivalry good? The opposition, right? It's the opposition. I mean, how many Gator fans in the room? FSU fans in the room? How many Georgia Bulldog fans in the room? Let me ask you this. So, obviously, Gator fans hate FSU fans and they're like vice versa. But Gator fans also hate Georgia fans. Both huge rivalries. But which is the better rivalry right now? Like, as a Gator fan, what are you more worried about? The Georgia game or the FSU game? You're worried about the Georgia game. Why? Because the opposition has been better over the last number of years. So the better the opposition, the better the rivalry. Think back to some of the greatest games that you've ever seen. What made them great? It was a great opponent or the opposition. Right? If you eliminate the opposition, then the games become uninteresting and often boring. I mean, how many of you ever turned off a game where your opponent was getting just completely blown out? You're watching a game, you're blowing somebody out, and you're like, this game's over, I got other things to do. You turn it off. Right? It becomes uninteresting when there's no opposition. And sometimes people ask me, they say, why do you hate the Gators so much? And so I'm going to just take you down a little, I told part of this story before, but I'm going to take you down a little trip of memory lane. When I moved here in 2005, it was my full intention to make Florida our second team, right? We were going to stay committed to the SEC. If you don't know, we're Kentucky fans. I bought Adrian, his cousin Jaron, Gator hats. Do you remember that? You remember that? Yeah, I'm embarrassed too. He just goes. We were ready. As most of you know, Kentucky is known more for its basketball program as opposed to football, although football's on an upswing, which is good. And we also had a great day a couple years ago when we beat Florida in football. That was a fantastic day. How many years in a row was it? Yeah, like almost my entire life, Florida beat us every single year, but we did it. Anyway, back to basketball. All right, so let me tell you a little bit. Kentucky is the winningest team in NCAA basketball history. We were the first program to have 2,000 wins. We have more SEC championships. If you're not a sports guy, hang on, I'll bring this around in a second. SEC is the conference we play in. We have more SEC championships ourselves than all of the other SEC teams combined. But when we moved here in 2005, from 2005 to 2008, with the intention of making Florida our number 2 team, Florida beat Kentucky in basketball 7 times in a row. More times in a row than any team in history. Kentucky still holds the overall series by 103 to like 40. So we're in good shape. But during that time, I got very angry. And I began to hate and loathe the Gators because they beat us so many times in a row. I just couldn't do it. They became my most hated team. Now, people who oppose Kentucky, everybody hates Kentucky basketball. Everybody. Every team fights their hardest to beat us. Why? Because we are an elite program. We, like I play on the team. All I do is sit on the couch and eat chips and watch. But we are an elite program. Now, follow me. When we are the other team's opposition, their opportunity rises exponentially. Let me give you an example. The first game of last season, we played Michigan State, which is another elite program. Michigan State at the time was ranked number 1. We were ranked number 2. Guess who won? A lot at stake because the winner's going to take the number 1 spot, right? We won. We moved to the number 1 spot in the country, all right? So by the time the weekend circles around, they up us from number 2 to number 1. We get the number 1 ranking. We have a game at home against which, your warm-up games that you have in the beginning of the season, right? Our second game as the number 1 team, we played the Evansville Purple Aces. How many Evansville Purple Aces? Right, you never heard of them, right? So who had the greater opportunity? The Purple Aces or Kentucky? Exactly. So not only are they playing against one of the greatest college basketball programs in the entire country, they're also playing against the number 1 ranked team at the time. And they're playing us at home, which is, it's statistically nearly impossible to beat us at home. We have like a 90-something+% win at home. All right? What happened? We lost. The Purple Aces... The Purple Aces, they didn't jump to number 1. The Purple Aces win. I promise I didn't come to preach about Kentucky basketball. But for the sake of illustration and my birthday, we'll just watch one quick video clip, and I'm going to try to tie this around again. Now, this is March of last year, right before COVID broke out and everything shut down. This is the last game that Adrian and I saw in person.
Kentucky taking a trip down to Florida to meet up with the Gators in Florida. Gets out of the gates right away. It's Andrew Nembhard up top to Keontae Johnson for the throwdown. Then Quest Glover knocks down a three-pointer, smooth little shot there. Florida up 18-9. Johnny Juzang hits a jumper from the corner here for Kentucky. The Florida's lead is at 7, but Keontae Johnson driving, finishing strong at the rim late in the first half, and Florida goes to the locker rooms up by 10. Now, Omar Payne on the business end of an alley-oop here. Florida still maintaining that 10-point edge. Tyrese Maxey drives, and Omar Payne sends it back with a huge rejection. Then Nembhard finds Noah Locke for the basket plus the foul, and look at Florida going in front 57-39 after the free throw. Kentucky scores back though. Nick Richards gets a jam. Then Tyrese Maxey drives, misses the layup, but Nate Sestina follows the miss with a putback stuff. Then Nick Richards finishes with a jump hook in the post. And all of a sudden, it's a 1-point game with 2.5 minutes to go.
Clocked off. Dribbles over to the right. Bounces it to Montgomery at the top. They get it to Richards, but he's way out front. He hands it to Juzang. Brooks posting. He's got it. Driving left baseline. Puts it up. Won't go. Can't in! No! They're going to call basket interference on Kentucky. I think this should count. And I think it's going to count.
I hope you're right.
11.6 seconds to play. Kentucky, count it. Count the basket. Kentucky takes the lead for the first time today on an E.J. Montgomery tip-in. 3.1 seconds. They hand the ball to Johnson. Looking, gets it into Nembhard. Comes up the sideline. He's going to shoot a 35-footer for the win. It bounces around, comes off, and Kentucky survives. The Wildcats defeat the Gators 71-70, coming from 18 down for an unbelievable comeback win to close out the regular season.
This is one of the best basketball games I've ever been to. At first, it was terrible. We were down 18 points. Now, what made this game so great? I hate Gators. And when I say that, sometimes you turn off a game when you're beating somebody really bad. If we're beating the Gators bad, I watch it to the end. And I want them to pay for every, but this was even better because they thought they were going to win. And we're watching their faces and they're celebrating. We're going to take down Kentucky. 18 points back. So what made that great? It wasn't that it was just blowout game, which would have been great if we won. It was the opposition, right? So the opportunity rose because the opposition was so great. See, we can't control the outside variables. We can only control our perspective. And so when we face opposition, do you fold? Do you quit? Like, what's your default? Or do you rise to the occasion and seize the opportunity? What was it like in the locker room that day? Right, when they were down, I don't know, I think we were down 10 or 11, 12 going into the halftime, and then we just even lost more. What does that coach's speech sound like either in halftime or before the game when you're playing an elite team? Right, when you're concerned with opposition, it sounds more like, well, guys, we're facing some great opposition out there today. As you know, we're facing the number one team in the country. Their passing is great. Their defense is great. Their running game is great. I mean, they're better than us in every category. And I just wanted you to go ahead and prepare your mind and your heart to lose today because the opposition is just too great. Right? Or it's the same words, but it's a different perspective. Well, guys, we're facing some great opposition today. As you know, we're facing the number one team in the country. Their defense is great. Their passing is great. Their running game is great. Statistically, they're better than us in almost every category. But you know what that means? It means that we have an opportunity to rise to the occasion. We have an opportunity to beat the best. They have everything to lose. We have everything to gain. Don't look at this game as great opposition. Look at it as a great opportunity. Do you see the difference? Opposition and opportunity run together. Again, we can't control the outside variables. We can only control our perspective. Now, and you're probably wondering, when are we going to get to Nehemiah? All right, let's go. Nehemiah chapter 2. This is the end of chapter 2. Nehemiah faces great opposition as he's rebuilding the wall. But again, the greater the opposition, the greater the opportunity. At the end of verse 18 in chapter 2, it says, they replied, let us start rebuilding. Remember, that's where we ended last week. He gave them this big vision, and he said, let's do this. And the people responded, yes, let's do it. And so they began this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. What is this that you are doing, they asked. Are you rebelling against the king? And I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding, but as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it. Listen, opposition at this point has reared its ugly head, and Nehemiah now has greater opportunity. Now in chapter 3, the work actually begins. Right before, he's just talking, he's praying, he's surveying, he's examining the walls. In chapter 3, the work begins. So we're not going to read chapter 3, but I wanted to make a quick observation. I encourage you to read that on your own. All through chapter 3, they begin repairing the gates and the walls, but always the gates first. Remember last week that we said that the walls represent protection, but the gates represent our authority. That whoever controls the gates controls the city. It's the gatekeeper who decides who comes in and who goes out. So again, opposition and opportunity run together, but opposition will always defeat you if you don't put up a fight, meaning if you just let it in. See, some of us feel that we're in a constant state of losing. Right? We understand the principle of opposition and opportunity. We can wrap our minds around it, but it seems that we're never actually able to seize the opportunity. When opposition comes, it knocks us off of our feet. And part of the reason that happens is because we have either lost control of the gate or our gates have been torn down. We're being defeated by the very things that we're allowing to come inside our gate. Opposition comes in and says, he tries to come in, we're like, hey, yeah, come on in. I got plenty of room. No, you don't need to sleep on the couch here. Just take my room. Right? We just welcome them in by letting the gates stay open. So no matter how much we rebuild our walls, if we continue to allow the wrong things in, we'll always be destroyed from the inside out. And I know this is a throwback to last series, but this is why maintaining our spiritual authority is paramount. We cannot simply allow ungodly beliefs to enter our minds through open gates or torn down gates. We must maintain control of the gates. If our gates and our walls have been torn down or damaged, just like Nehemiah, we must repair the gates first. Take your authority. All right, let's jump to chapter 4. We simply don't have time to read this entire chapter. I'm going to jump around a bit to show you some of the opposition that Nehemiah faced. We are going to, it's quite a bit of reading today, but just hang with me. So, verse 1, when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and greatly incensed, and he ridiculed the Jews. And in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, what are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are? There are people in the room and people watching online, and this is exactly how you feel. You feel like a broken mess. You can't even see anything beautiful anymore. Let me read this last line again. It says, will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble burned as they are? So there's this big pile of rubble, and that's how a lot of people view their lives. They've been beaten, they've been burned, things around them have been destroyed, and you no longer see what it is that God has created you to be. All you see is the rubble and the mess. And then Sanballat asked this question, can they bring the stones back to life? No, you can't. But God can. See, there's nothing in your life that's so messed up that God can't bring you healing. There's no mistake that you've ever made that's so gross that God won't forgive it. There's nothing so broken that God can't rebuild it. Don't give in to the opposition. Repair the gates, take your spiritual authority, and fight to win. Now, verse 3, it says, Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, what are they building? Even a fox climbing up on it would break down their stone walls. All right, let's drop to verse 6. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all of their heart. Notice they built until it was half of its height. This lets us know that rebuilding is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. So don't get discouraged with where you are. If you're making choices and decisions to do something different, to better your life, to go deeper with God, sometimes there's instantaneous miracles that take place. You're in one place one minute, God moves and you're in a completely different place. But other times it's a process. Remember our word for the year, multiply, which is to perform the process of multiplication. So as you're rebuilding your walls, sometimes you're going to get it up to halfway and you're going to get discouraged. But don't get discouraged. It's a process. You might only be halfway while someone else is 3/4 of the way. Maintain your focus and keep moving forward. Now, I wanted to read this verse again from the New American Standard Version. Verse 6 again says, so we built the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto half the height thereof. Now, this one, instead of saying the people worked with all of their heart, it says this, for the people had a mind to work. And when I began to research this and dig in a little bit deeper, the word mind here means inner man or mind or heart or understanding. So this again is letting us know that the battle is going to be in the mind. See, some of us give up so easily when we face opposition. We need a little more mental fortitude. We need to keep moving forward no matter what we face. Mental toughness is a sign of spiritual maturity. Our 3-year-old Bennett is a fairly stubborn little boy. His full name is Bennett Liam. Bennett means blessed, which Katie picked that one out. That sounds like a word for Katie. I picked Liam out, and it means resolute warrior, or AKA strong-willed. But we don't call him strong-willed. Liam was it's like a short for William, and my grandfather's name was William, and so I just kind of wanted to honor him or whatever. So we called him Liam. It means resolute warrior. So every night before we go to bed, we go through a series of confessions. One of which is this: I have him confess what his name means. So before we go to bed, he just repeats after me. He says, I am blessed, I am resolute, I am a warrior. And then we go on and say some other things as well. But we believe, obviously, he's going to do amazing things for the kingdom of God. Anyway, back to mental toughness. There are times when he'll work really hard to accomplish something. But if he's tired, if he's hungry, if he's missed his nap, if his daily schedule gets thrown off, then everything gets thrown into turmoil, right? He loves to play basketball. Surprising, I know. When he's rested and in a good mood, he'll keep shooting until he makes a basket, and then he'll continue to shoot again and again. He loves to go play on Bubba's goal. Can we go outside, play on Bubba's goal, play on Bubba's goal? So he wants to go outside, play on the bigger goal. It's higher. So he'll shoot and shoot and shoot until he makes it. If he's tired, he'll shoot, miss once, and then cry. And says, I can't do it, and he gives up. What's the problem? He's 3. That's the problem. He hasn't developed his maturity yet to move forward. He hasn't developed that mental toughness to keep going. See, some of us as adults are still developing our own maturity. We have no mental toughness. We have no ability to keep going when we face opposition. We just give up. We miss a shot. We're like, oh, God, I can't do it. And we just stop. We're missing opportunities because we won't fight against the opposition. Listen, it's time for us to grow up and stop acting like a bunch of 3-year-olds. We don't have time to lose our minds every time that we face opposition. Don't be surprised when opposition comes. Listen, I'm going to tell you, opposition is coming. It's coming. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. It's coming. Don't be surprised when it comes. Go ahead and prepare yourself for the opposition. But when the opposition comes, so does your opportunity. We got to grow up a little bit. And we have to have the mind to work like they had in verse 6. Verse 7. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs of Jerusalem walls had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. Now they all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. This is really a flyover of this chapter. It's really good, and there's a lot of deep stuff in here. This is a faith meets action kind of moment, right? They prayed to our God, and then they posted a guard day and night to meet the threat. What did James, the brother of Jesus, say in the book that he wrote in the New Testament? Faith without action is dead. I love the quote from Mark Batterson, and he says, pray like it depends on God and work like it depends on you. I'm not talking about working for your salvation. Salvation comes by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, not by works. But when we face opposition, we must pray about it, and then we position ourselves for action. It's not an either or. It's a both and moment. It's not, oh, here comes the opposition, let me pray and do nothing. It's a, here comes opposition, let me pray, let me get the mind of God, and then let me begin to take steps and do what it is that I'm supposed to do. It's a both and moment. Faith without action is dead. When the opposition comes, be prepared to face it. Verse 10, meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is given out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. Also our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them, and will kill them and put an end to the work. And then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. Therefore, I stationed some people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. All right, let's hang out here in verse 13 a second. He positions people at the lowest points and the exposed places of the wall. Remember in chapter 2, when we started, he assessed the situation by riding around the walls. He was examining the walls. You guys remember that. It was one of the major points. Right? He had already taken inventory of what the job needed and what had to be done. He knows where the weak places are. But the question is do we know where our weak places are? We need and we have to take inventory of our own lives. Have you done that? Have you taken inventory of your own lives? Do you know where your weak and vulnerable places are? Right? Do we know what our trigger points are? A lot of us do. We know exactly where our weak spots are, but the problem is we never position ourselves to fight in those areas. Some of us have simply accepted defeat. We're just done. We just assume that we'll never get over it. We assume that we'll never win. We just assume a place of defeat. We're never going to get victory. I'm never going to stop doing this. I'm never going to get over this sin. I'm never going to stop watching pornography. I'm never going to stop drinking. I'm never going to get rid of this drug addiction. I'm never going to overcome depression. I'm never going to be what God's called me to be. We assume the position of defeat. But Nehemiah says, in these weak areas, strengthen yourself. Place a guard in those weak areas. And then he says, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. Sometimes the only way to protect your weak spots is to let your family and those that are close to you in. Right? We have to stop acting like we have it all together. Right? We all have weak spots. Let someone help you protect yourself. Stop being so stubborn and prideful. Let your guard down and let someone help you. Just a side note, that's why e-groups and small groups are so important. Because that's where you get to know people in an intimate way where they can wrap their arms around you. Right? I love the relationships with people when they can just look at you and they go, how you doing? You're like, I'm good. And they're like, no, really, how you doing? Because they can feel that something's off in that moment. Those are the relationships that you need. Those are the people that you need to speak into your weak areas and your vulnerable areas to strengthen you when we're weak. Verse 14. After I looked things over, I stood up and I said to the nobles. Again, I know I've talked about this a lot. Over and over and over, Nehemiah, after I did this, after I saw it, after I prayed, he always, remember he said he doesn't ever react. He never reacts. He always responds thoughtfully and prayerfully. He always assesses the situation. All right, and then he says, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. I love this verse. And this is exactly what we spent time talking about the other day. If you won't fight for yourself, will you do it for your sons and your daughters? Will you do it for the next generation? Will you do it for your wives and for your husbands and for your houses? If you won't do it for yourself, do it for them. Verse 15. When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. And from that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other, and each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. All right, you get in this picture. There's opposition coming. They're preparing for it. Is it inconvenient to carry a sword while you're doing work? Of course it is. But they know opposition is coming, and so they are prepared for it. It says, so we continued, in verse 21, so we continued the work with half the men holding spears from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. At that time, I also said to the people, have every man and his helper stay inside Jerusalem at night so that they can serve as guards by day and as guards by night and as workers by day. Neither I, nor my brothers, nor my men, nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon, even when he went for water. There's a lot going on in these verses. But you see the sense of urgency because opposition is coming. There's a weapon in one hand. They're doing work with the other. They're working and they're prepared for opposition at the same time. They aren't just doing one or the other. Again, it's a both and. Even when they went for water, they carried their swords. What is this telling us? They were expecting the opposition. Because they were expecting it, they were prepared for it. And I know I've said this a few different times or different ways today, but opposition is coming. If you and I won't prepare for the opposition, then we'll never seize the opportunity. Never. Right? We all want opportunities. Oh, I wish I had an opportunity to do this. I wish I had an opportunity to do this. Every time I start to do this, such and such happens. That's the opportunity. The opposition is the opportunity to rise above the opposition and do something significant. New opportunities always come with new opposition, but new opposition always comes with new opportunities. Now, I want to go back to the opening verse and very quickly give us 3 types of opposition to expect. Adrian, you can come play. We'll go through this pretty quick. All right, so we're going to circle back to Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 19. And it said, but when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official and Geshem the Arab heard about it. They mocked us and ridiculed us. What is this that you are doing? They asked, are you rebelling against the king? The word Sanballat the name means strength. And I think that what this is telling us is when we accept the mission from God, remember what we've been talking about the last few weeks is living on mission, doing what God has called us to do. Sanballat, who is one of the primary instigators in this whole thing, his name means strength. And so I think what that tells us is that you and I can not just expect opposition, but expect strong opposition. See, when you and I begin to find our purpose, when we begin to live our lives on mission, when we begin to be passionate again, the enemy will strongly oppose what it is that you are doing. He's not just going to sit back and go, oh, yeah, okay, no problem. He's going to not just oppose you, strongly oppose you. Now, the second primary instigator, his name is Tobiah. Tobiah the Ammonite. Tobiah means this: Jehovah is good. It seems weird to me that someone whose name means Jehovah is good is fighting against Jehovah God. Right? These are the people who should be on your side. They should be helping you rebuild your walls, helping you rebuild the walls of others. These are the church folk who smile on Sunday but tear you down behind your back. And I'm thankful that here at Everyday Church, we don't really have a lot of that kind of drama. Praise Jesus. But these are your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who just don't get it. They are the all faith, no action people. Right there, just bless God, brother. We're just going to pray. We don't need it. We're just pray, let God do. But sometimes you got to do stuff too. Amen. These are the folks that will worship with you, but they won't work with you. And that's the problem. See, sometimes we have to distance ourselves from that. We have to be prepared to live on mission no matter what, and no matter what it costs, that we're going to move forward because God gives us a mission that's bigger than ourselves. So the people that are supposed to be on your side, or the people that are worshiping beside you, or the people who are to your face, yeah, God is good, you can do it, go, 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 but then they tear behind you. That's the second kind of opposition. Number one, strong opposition. Number two, people who should be on your side but aren't. Number three, this guy's name is Geshem. The word Geshem means rain or shower. We know a thing or two about opposition, the opposition of rain around here. Every single time we plan an outdoor event, it rains. Almost without fail. Sunny for days, no rain for weeks, burn bans all across Marion County. Everyday Church schedules an outdoor event. Monsoon season opens back up. What just happened, dude? But here's the thing about rain, is rain, even though it sometimes seems to ruin our plans, without rain, everything dies. What does rain do? It brings new life. It waters the things that are dead or dying. Opposition, like rain, also brings new life. You know, going back to my Kentucky analogy, when Kentucky plays basketball, no matter where they are in the country, everybody plays their best game against us. Why? Because of the opposition. The opposition is hard, so they rise. It makes them play better. It makes them play harder. Because there's more at risk. There's more to lose. And that's what rain does. Rain is a bringer of life. It brings new energy. The second part of that was showers. I mean, in our modern context, why do we shower? Because we get dirty, right? A shower washes us. A shower has the ability to reveal what's underneath the dirt. See, rain is a revealer of what's really underneath. You ever been working in the yard, mowing the grass? Anybody mow the grass in shorts? Push mow, weed eat in shorts? Some of you are smart enough to wear boots and pants. Boots and pants and boots and pants. I don't know why I said that. I just couldn't help it. As soon as I said boots and pants, that's all I could think of. Anyway, you're out there, you're weed eating, and you're your shins are covered with grass, weeds, right? Dirt. And then you go in, or you take the hose and you wash off. You can see your leg again, first of all. But second, how many of you have ever had a cut or something underneath you didn't know it was there? Yeah. See, the shower revealed what was underneath the dirt. And so Geshem, who is one of the primary instigators here with Tobiah and Sanballat, it's rain. And while we don't want rain in the middle of our plans messing up what we're trying to do, at the same time, rain brings life and it washes us so that we can see ourselves. It washes us clean, first of all. Secondly, it reveals, if we're covered in mud and dirt, it reveals what it is underneath us that needs attention. That's what opposition does. It reveals who you are. I mean, how many of you like me, you still just lose your temper on the road sometimes? Right? You face the opposition out there, and that opposition reveals what's inside. Reveals what's happening. So the opposition that you face, the rain that comes down, is a revealer of the real you, what's really happening. So it causes us to ask questions. While none of us really want to face opposition, we're all going to face it. And so the questions become, how are you handling the opposition in your life? Has the opposition become a distraction from the mission? Have we become so focused on the opposition that we fail to see the opportunities that the opposition is presenting? So you can ask yourself, what opposition is keeping you from living on mission? What opposition do you need to face in order to live on mission? And what opportunities are you missing by not facing the opposition? Because we'll fail every time if we're not prepared. If we're not prepared to face the opposition. Expect strong opposition. Expect opposition even from people who should be on your side. And look for the rain. And we all know that rain obviously is also a symbol of the Holy Spirit. And so in those moments when we're feeling that strong opposition, we don't know what to do, we can just press into the rain of the Holy Spirit and ask Him to wash us and allow Him to elevate us to the next level and to strengthen us to be able to do what it is that we're called to do, which is to go and make disciples, which is ultimately what this whole message is about. I know I was a little lighter today than the past couple of weeks. I told some bad jokes. We watched Kentucky videos and I beatboxed with boots and pants at the end. But don't allow that to take away from what we're trying to say here. Because the message of opportunity and opposition running together is very, very important. And if you'll realize that and change your perspective, remember, you can't control the outside variables. You can only control your perspective. So when opposition hits this week, and it will, if it doesn't this week, maybe next, not the next, it will come for you. Eventually, opposition will come. When it comes, look at that as your moment. Look at it as your opportunity. Let's pray. God, I thank you for this day. I just thank you for who you are.